What if I told you that the man who created one of the world's most prestigious awards was once called the Merchant of Death? A sickly boy who loved books and science would grow up to become one of the richest inventors in history. He created powerful explosives, built factories around the world, and then made a surprising decision that changed his legacy forever. Today, millions of people know his name because of the Nobel Prize, one of the greatest honors a person can receive. How did an inventor of explosives become a symbol of peace, science, and human achievement? This is the unbelievable and inspiring story of Alfred Nobel, the man who turned tragedy into a gift for humanity. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Universal English. Today, we bring you an inspiring story of intelligence, invention, and redemption. It is the story of a man whose discoveries changed the world and whose final decision created one of history's most important awards. His name was Alfred Nobel. Even today, scientists, writers, and peacemakers dream of winning a Nobel Prize. But Alfred Nobel's journey was not easy. He faced poverty, loneliness, family tragedies, and criticism throughout his life, yet he never stopped learning and creating. This is the unbelievable story of Alfred Nobel, the inventor who wanted to leave the world better than he found it. So sit back, relax, and travel back to the 19th century as we discover how one man's life changed history forever. A child is born. Our story begins on October 21, 1833. In Stockholm, Sweden, a baby boy was born. His name was Alfred Bernhard Nobel. He was the fourth son of a man named Emanuel Nobel and his wife, Andriette. His father was an engineer and inventor. He loved building machines and experimenting with new ideas. However, the family often struggled financially. When Alfred was still a young child, his father's business failed. Life became difficult. The family had very little money. No one could imagine that this little boy would one day become one of the most famous inventors in history. A sick but curious boy. As a child, Alfred was often ill. He was smaller and weaker than many other children. Because of his poor health, he spent a lot of time indoors. But instead of feeling sorry for himself, he developed a love for books. He read everything he could find: history, science, poetry, languages. His curiosity seemed endless. His mother encouraged his education and taught him the importance of hard work and kindness. Young Alfred became a quiet and thoughtful boy. He preferred reading and studying to playing games. A new life in Russia. When Alfred was 9 years old, his father's fortunes changed. Emanuel Nobel moved to St. Petersburg, Russia, and started a new business. This time, he became successful. Soon, the rest of the family joined him. Life improved greatly. For the first time, Alfred had access to an excellent education. Private teachers taught him science, chemistry, literature, and foreign languages. He was an exceptional student. By the time he was a teenager, he could speak several languages, including Swedish, Russian, English, French, and German. His intelligence amazed everyone around him. A love for science. Although Alfred enjoyed literature and poetry, he became especially interested in science. Chemistry fascinated him. He wanted to understand how materials worked and how inventions could improve people's lives. His father hoped Alfred would become an engineer and continue the family business. So Alfred studied hard. As he grew older, he traveled to different countries to continue his education. These journeys introduced him to some of the greatest scientists of his time. They also changed the direction of his life forever. Discovering explosives. During his studies, Alfred became interested in a dangerous substance called nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin was a very powerful explosive. However, it was also extremely unstable. Even a small mistake could cause a terrible explosion. Most people considered it too dangerous to use. But Alfred saw possibilities. He believed that if scientists could control nitroglycerin safely, it could help build roads, tunnels, and railways. The young inventor became determined to solve this problem. Tragedy strikes. Alfred and his family began experimenting with nitroglycerin. But their work was extremely dangerous. Then tragedy struck. In 1864, a terrible explosion destroyed the family's factory in Sweden. Several people were killed. Among them was Alfred's younger brother, Emil. The loss devastated Alfred. He loved his brother deeply. Many people believed he would give up his experiments. But Alfred refused to stop. Instead, he became even more determined to find a safer way to use explosives. He believed that scientific progress often comes through hardship and perseverance. The quiet boy who loved books had become a young scientist with a great dream. He had faced poverty, illness, and tragedy. Yet he continued searching for new discoveries. The painful loss of his brother only strengthened his determination. The young inventor was now about to create an invention that would make him famous across the world, but it would also bring unexpected consequences that would change his life forever. The inventor of dynamite and the man called the Merchant of Death. The search for a safer explosive. After the terrible explosion that killed his brother Emil, Alfred Nobel was heartbroken. Many people expected him to stop working with explosives. They believed the experiments were simply too dangerous. But Alfred thought differently. He believed that the problem was not the explosive itself. The problem was that no one had yet found a safe way to control it. He continued his experiments carefully. Day after day, he worked in his laboratory. He tested different materials and searched for a solution. He knew that if he succeeded, his invention could help engineers build roads, tunnels, and bridges much more quickly. Years of hard work were about to change his life forever. The invention of dynamite. In 1867, Alfred Nobel made one of the greatest discoveries of his life. He found that mixing nitroglycerin with a soft material called kieselguhr made the explosive much safer to handle. The new material could still produce a powerful explosion, but it was much more stable. Alfred called his invention dynamite. The word came from the Greek word dynamis, meaning power. The invention quickly attracted attention. Engineers and construction companies loved it. For the first time, workers could break through mountains and rocks much more easily. Railroads, tunnels, and canals could now be built faster than ever before. Dynamite changed the world of construction. The young scientist had become one of the most important inventors of his age. Success and wealth. The invention of dynamite brought Alfred Nobel enormous success. Factories began producing dynamite in different countries. Soon, he owned businesses across Europe and America. His wealth grew rapidly. He became one of the richest men in the world. But money did not change his personality. Alfred remained quiet and thoughtful. He continued reading books and writing poetry. Unlike many wealthy people, he lived a simple life. He spent much of his time working and studying. His mind was always searching for new ideas. Throughout his life, he registered more than 300 patents for different inventions. His success was extraordinary. Yet deep inside, he often felt lonely. A man of many interests. Most people knew Alfred Nobel as an inventor. But he was much more than that. He loved literature and poetry. He enjoyed reading famous books and discussing philosophy. He even tried writing plays and poems himself. He spoke several languages and could easily communicate with people from different countries. Despite his success, he never married. He spent most of his life traveling between different countries and managing his factories. Sometimes he felt isolated. He once wrote that he had many acquaintances, but very few true friends. The inventor who had achieved so much often struggled with loneliness. The dark side of dynamite. Although dynamite helped build roads and tunnels, it also had another use. Armies began using explosives in war. As weapons became more powerful, many people started criticizing Alfred Nobel. Some accused him of creating tools of destruction. Newspapers often connected his inventions with violence and death. These criticisms deeply affected him. Alfred had never wanted his inventions to cause suffering. He had hoped that science would improve people's lives. Alfred had never wanted his inventions to cause suffering. He had hoped that science would improve people's lives. Instead, many people saw him as a man who had made war more deadly. This troubled him greatly. The shocking newspaper. In 1888, something unexpected happened. Alfred's brother Ludwig died in France. A newspaper made a terrible mistake. Instead of reporting Ludwig's death, it accidentally published an obituary for Alfred Nobel. The headline shocked him. It called him the Merchant of Death. The newspaper wrote that the man who became rich by inventing ways to kill people had died. Alfred was horrified. For the first time, he saw how many people might remember him after his death. Would history remember him only as the inventor of explosives? Would people forget all his other achievements? The newspaper article changed his life. It forced him to ask an important question. What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? Thinking about the future. After reading the newspaper article, Alfred spent many years thinking about his future. He had money, fame, and successful businesses. But he wanted something more. He wanted to be remembered for helping humanity. He admired scientists, writers, and people who worked for peace. He believed that great achievements should be recognized and rewarded. Slowly, a new idea began to form in his mind. It would become one of the most important decisions of his life. Writing a surprising will. In 1895, Alfred Nobel made an extraordinary decision. He wrote a new will. In this document, he left most of his enormous fortune to create special prizes. These prizes would be given to people who brought the greatest benefit to humanity. The awards would honor achievements in physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. It was a remarkable idea. No one expected such a decision. Even some members of his family were surprised. But Alfred believed that rewarding great achievements could make the world better. He hoped these prizes would encourage people to improve humanity. The final years. As Alfred grew older, his health became weaker. He continued working, reading, and writing. But he often reflected on his life. He had experienced success, tragedy, and criticism. He had become one of the richest inventors in history. Yet he remained a humble and thoughtful man. The decision to create the Nobel Prizes gave him peace. He believed that his fortune could help future generations. The lonely inventor had found a new purpose. A legacy begins. By the end of his life, Alfred Nobel had completely changed the story of his legacy. The man once called the Merchant of Death was preparing to become something very different. His final decision would inspire scientists, writers, and peacemakers for centuries to come. And after his death, the entire world would learn the true meaning of his remarkable gift. The inventor of dynamite had achieved wealth and fame, but he wanted something greater than success. A mistaken newspaper headline forced him to think about how history would remember him. And so, Alfred Nobel made a decision that would change his legacy forever and create one of the world's most respected awards. The final days of Alfred Nobel. By the mid-1890s, Alfred Nobel had become one of the richest and most famous inventors in the world. He owned factories in many countries and had earned a huge fortune from his inventions. Yet he remained a simple and thoughtful man. He spent much of his time reading books, writing letters, and thinking about the future. Although he had achieved great success, he often felt lonely. He never married and had very few close friends. As he grew older, his health became weaker. But one thing gave him peace. He knew that his fortune would one day help people around the world. The idea of the Nobel Prizes had become his greatest dream. The death of an inventor. On December 10, 1896, Alfred Nobel passed away in San Remo, Italy. He was 63 years old. News of his death quickly spread around the world. Many newspapers wrote about the famous inventor. People remembered him as the creator of dynamite and one of the greatest scientists of his time. But then something surprising happened. When his will was opened, everyone discovered his incredible final wish. Instead of leaving his money to his relatives, Alfred Nobel had decided to give most of his fortune to create a series of international prizes. Many people were shocked. Some family members were unhappy with the decision. Others could hardly believe it. The inventor had left behind a gift for all humanity. A difficult beginning. Creating the Nobel Prizes was not easy. After Alfred's death, there were many legal problems. Some people questioned his will. Others did not understand exactly how the prizes should work. It took several years to organize everything. Finally, Alfred's wishes were accepted. A special organization called the Nobel Foundation was created to manage the prizes and his fortune. The foundation's mission was simple: to reward people whose work brought the greatest benefit to humanity. Alfred Nobel's dream was finally becoming a reality. The first Nobel Prizes. In 1901, 5 years after Alfred Nobel's death, the first Nobel Prizes were awarded. The prizes recognized achievements in physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, peace. Scientists, writers, and leaders from different countries were honored. The world immediately recognized the importance of these awards. Winning a Nobel Prize became one of the highest honors a person could receive. The prizes encouraged people to make discoveries, write great books, and work for peace. Alfred Nobel's final gift was already changing lives. A prize that changed the world. As the years passed, the Nobel Prizes became more famous. Many of the world's greatest minds received the award. Important scientific discoveries were recognized. Brilliant writers were honored. People who worked for peace and human rights received international attention. In 1968, an additional prize in economic sciences was established in Alfred Nobel's memory. Today, the Nobel Prize is one of the most respected awards in the world. Millions of people know the name Alfred Nobel because of these prizes. Ironically, many people remember him more for the Nobel Prize than for dynamite itself. The man who once worried about his legacy had completely changed how history would remember him. The legacy of Alfred Nobel. Alfred Nobel's life teaches us something very important. A person's legacy is not determined by mistakes or criticism. It is determined by what they choose to do with their life. At one time, some people called him the Merchant of Death, but he refused to let that become his final story. Instead, he created something that encouraged knowledge, creativity, and peace. Because of his decision, scientists have made incredible discoveries. Writers have inspired millions of readers. Peace activists have received support and recognition. His final gift continues to help humanity more than a century after his death. Why the Nobel Prize matters. The Nobel Prize is much more than an award. It represents hope. It reminds us that great ideas can change the world. It encourages people to solve problems and improve human life. Every year, people eagerly wait to hear the names of the new Nobel Prize winners. Students dream of one day receiving this honor. Scientists dedicate their lives to important discoveries. Writers continue creating meaningful works. Peacemakers work to build a better world. All of this happens because of one man's extraordinary decision. Lessons from Alfred Nobel's life. What can we learn from Alfred Nobel? First, never stop learning. Alfred loved books and education throughout his life. Second, do not be afraid of failure or criticism. People criticized his inventions, but he continued moving forward. Third, think about the impact you have on others. Alfred wanted his life to benefit humanity. And finally, remember that it is never too late to change your legacy. One decision can change how the world remembers you. Alfred Nobel proved that a person's greatest achievement may come at the very end of life. The man behind the prize. Today, when people hear the words Nobel Prize, they think of excellence, achievement, and hope. But behind that famous award was a quiet, intelligent, and thoughtful man. A boy who loved books became a scientist. A scientist became an inventor. An inventor became one of the richest men in the world. And finally, a wealthy inventor became a symbol of human progress and peace. His story reminds us that success is not only about money or fame. True success is about leaving the world better than you found it. The story of Alfred Nobel is the story of intelligence, perseverance, and redemption. A sickly boy who loved science became one of history's greatest inventors. He created powerful inventions that changed the world. He faced tragedy and criticism. Yet he chose to use his fortune to encourage knowledge, literature, and peace. His life teaches us that our legacy is built by the choices we make. Because one idea can change an industry. One invention can change the world. And one generous decision can inspire humanity for centuries. Just as Alfred Nobel did. Thank you for watching this inspiring story on Universal English. If you enjoyed this biography, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Keep learning, keep dreaming, and never stop using your talents to make the world a better place.